Brian, the thought that frightens me most is the constant resonance of the idea that there could have been nothing, not just no physical things, but no space, no time, no laws, no God, no nothing, zero, blank, an ultimate blank forever. Clearly that's not the case, but the fact that that's not the case is to me astonishing.
Well, it's a tough question that you're raising. Why is there something rather than nothing? And I think the first step to trying to deal with it is to say what the answer couldn't be. It couldn't be any kind of a causal explanation, because anything that would cause something to happen would already be something. And so, since you're positing that first thing to be a cause, you wouldn't have an answer to the question, why something rather than nothing, because you wouldn't have explained why that first causal something at all. So the answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing, couldn't be given in terms of a causal story. Now, the second sort of answer you couldn't have would be a contingent answer, an answer that appealed somehow to a contingent being. Because to say that something is contingent is precisely to say that it need not have been there. And so if you appealed to a contingent being, you'd simply have to ask all over again, why that thing rather than nothing? And as long as that question still comes up, you haven't got an answer to the question, why is there anything? Why not nothing? So what's left? If it can't be something contingent, and if it can't be a causal answer, there can be only one sort of possible answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's got to be something that exists necessarily, whose mere existing, rather than its causing anything, is the answer to the question, why something rather than nothing? Now, to say that is not to, of course, say that there is an answer to that question. It's simply to say what the only possible sort of answer could be.
Could there be a brute fact answer, which is something exists and there's no reason for it to exist? Some people, many distinguished philosophers, have said that's what the universe is. They don't believe in God, and they say the universe is a brute fact, the universe is there, and that's all, to quote Bertrand Russell.
I'd want to make a distinction here. It's certainly a permissible and legitimate theory to say existence is a brute fact and there's no explanation for it. But if you say that, you're not answering the question, why is there something rather than nothing? You're saying there is no answer to the question.
Right. Well, that's an answer. What the truth is. And if that's the answer, that's the answer.
Okay. In a broader sense,
it doesn't have to satisfy me. I don't have to be happy. That's not part of the structure of reality to make me happy.
When you ask the question, why is there something rather than nothing, you're wanting to be given some kind of explanatory story.
I would like it, but if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, fine. All I'm saying is, in the sense in which you're asking the question, namely wanting an explanation, to say that there's no explanation is not to give you what you were looking for. So, I mean, we're actually not disagreeing at all. I just want to sort of parse the terms more precisely.
All right. Okay. All right. So, lead me by the hand. It's not going to be a causal answer. It's not going to be a contingent answer. And so, therefore, what more can you say about it?
Well, the only answer there could be then would be something that exists necessarily. If there is a necessary being or many necessary beings, then the necessary being or those necessary beings are the answer to the question, why is there something? Why? Because those things exist.
And that's, this is not circular because you're just defining something to answer that question, right?
It would be circular if well, let's put it this way. I'm not saying that there is an answer to the question. I'm simply defining if there is an answer, this is what
it has to be.
This is what it has to be.
So in that sense, you're permitted circularity in a sense.
Well, it's not circular. I'm just simply giving a definition. I'm saying here's the kind of thing which, if there was one, would be an answer. That's just giving a definition, and there's nothing circular about defining a term. I'm not yet arguing that there is an answer to the question, so I'm not doing anything that could beg the question.
Okay. So you've defined what the characteristics of the answer, if there is an answer, has to have.
Right.
Okay. Can you go further? Can you try to find something, a being, an existent thing that has those characteristics?
I'll give you two sorts of answer. Many philosophers believe that there are what they call abstract Platonic objects, things like properties and propositions.
Numbers, logic.
Exactly. If there are those things, most philosophers would say they exist necessarily. And again, if there's a God, most people would say that God exists necessarily. So if there are entities of the Platonic sort or of the sort theists believe in, then those entities can serve as an answer to the question, why is there something?
And what properties, other than this definitional one, would those things have to have, other than their own necessary existence?
Okay, it's the necessity that enables them to be an answer to the question we're asking.
That's necessary, but not sufficient. Is it sufficient?
It's sufficient for them. Okay, all they need to be an answer to the question is that they be necessary beings. Anything else is gravy that you can say about them. When it comes to abstract objects, we don't know that much more about what they'd be like. And that's one of the reasons some philosophers tend to think there really aren't any such things, because their natures are so mysterious. When it comes to God, on the other hand, many philosophers think we know a good deal about what God's nature would be like. They would say that God is a perfect being, that he's omniscient, omnipotent, perfectly good, and so on. But those, while they might be true of God, aren't things we would have to say to get God to be the answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing?
Or to get to be less specific than the word God, which carries a lot of baggage with it, and different people invest that word with all sorts of ideas that may or may not be relevant or even coherent with each other. But just the core characteristic that being, that existent, has necessary existence.
Right.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. But that wouldn't be all you need if that existent thing had to do more than just exist itself. I mean, if it just existed itself, yes, there would be something rather than nothing, because it is an existent thing, but it might be, a very small, the number 12.
Right.
That's if the number 12 exists, there is something rather than nothing, but there's nothing else.
Right.
So what else, in order to go from that to what we find? The something we find is a very rich something. We're sitting here, we're talking, we think we're intelligent, and we think we're doing, there's a lot of somethings going on.
Yeah. Okay, well, one thing that your example of the number 12 points out, actually, is that the answer to the question, why is there something, might not have anything to do with the question, why is there all this?
Yes.
Because the number 12 didn't make it all, it doesn't account for it all.
Right.
It could be that there are just two very separate questions here. But if God is the answer to why is there something, then there is a connection between the answers, because the very thing that answers the question, why is there something, is also the thing that made everything other than itself.